5 most ambitious yet useless megaprojects in the world. Megaprojects are generally ambitious in nature, characterized by large investment commitment, vast complexity, and long-lasting impact on the economy, the environment, and the society. Yet there are numerous megaprojects which show us how ironic these large-scale ventures can be. For instance, there was a capital city that was built for millions of people, but remains reasonably deserted. Or an astounding $17 billion wasted on a megaproject that has never been used up to this day. While this can be frustrating enough, this video will show us 5 of the most ambitious yet useless megaprojects in the world. Before that, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to New Technology channel. Also, please let us know your thoughts about these megaprojects in the comments below. Number 1. Interstate H3 and Hawaii. First off the list, we have the 26-kilometer scenic highway in Hawaii, known as the Interstate H3, which passes through one of the most stunning landscapes in the world. It is so awe-inspiring that motorists can't help but pull a stop to get a better sight of the scene, and so create traffic hazards. However, it was so beautiful that it can't get away from controversies as well. It was proposed in 1960 to connect the Pearl Harbor Naval Base and the south side of the Marine Corps Air Station on the East Coast, a megaproject venture primarily with defense considerations. While the objective was militarily pure, the environmental groups and the native Hawaiians resisted the announcement for the fear of massive urbanization the project may bring. Hence, environmental laws and change of route to protect the surrounding valleys have caused indefinite delays in the project. It was 26 years later that the Congress exempted the project from environmental laws so as to begin the construction in 1989. The Interstate H3 was opened in 1997 after 37 years since its first proposal. The highway was considered an engineering marvel because of its difficult terrain and the advanced technologies used in the construction process. It also has numerous high-technology tunnels, so the highway runs exclusively over viaducts to protect the valleys below. These expensive technologies used in the construction, the decades of delay and route changes exuded the original estimate budget to 5 times over, amounting to $1.3 billion with the estimate of $50 million per kilometer, the most expensive cost per kilometer in the world. Despite the grandeur and the budget put up in the project, this scenic highway is not at all useful for everyone, as this has been criticized to be a road to nowhere because the defense consideration of the 60s is no longer relevant and the highway has no direct route to downtown Honolulu. Native Hawaiians also refused to use the H3 up to this day as they considered it cursed because many religiously significant cultural sites were destroyed during its construction. While Interstate H3 is an achievement as a megaproject, native groups considered it useless. At least, its beautiful reputation retained over the years. Number 2. Ciudad Real Central Airport in Spain. Then we have the Ciudad Real Central Airport in Spain. Its construction was conceived since Spain is one of the prime travel destinations in Europe. It was perceived to be the go-to destination for holiday travelers within Spain, as well as the international visitors, to be the alternative airport to the already heavily overcrowded main airport in Madrid. This new airport had one of the top 5 longest runways in Europe and had the capacity to serve 2 million passengers annually, a relatively low number compared to Madrid's 70 million passengers capacity. Expansion plans were then put to motion to boost the capacity to 10 million annually. The airport became operational in 2009 after $1.3 billion expense. However, the operation and plans for the airport came to a grinding halt in 2012 when the company behind the project filed for bankruptcy, blaming its location as the main culprit. Ironic as the name of the airport appears, it wasn't central in any way, as it was situated 200 kilometers away from Madrid. In turn, most of the passengers avoided traveling for hours to get to the remote location. Also, big airlines preferred to carry out flight operations from the capital. Within its first year of operating, the airport was reduced to a single small-time airline, and with no passengers to attract, the airport had accumulated a $350 million debt by 2012. It was then gone into receivership and was put up for auction in 2013. To even put on more shame, the airport was even popularized as an abandoned location by the British DC show Top Gear in 2014. After multiple auctions, the airport was sold to new owners in 2019 for an outrageous amount of $12,000. Came the COVID-19 pandemic. When business crashed and profits dwindled, the Ciudad Real Airport was reinvented to be a home for grounded planes given its dry climate, long runway, and space. By August 2020, there were 65 airplanes parked on the airport, while expansions are underway to provide a storage facility for over 300 aircraft. While this new storage approach gave the airport a much-needed business opportunity, the stored planes will eventually be gone once the pandemic is finally over, thus predicting a big challenge on the return of normal flight operations. This billion-dollar megaproject remains effectively useless for passengers within Spain and around the world. Number 3. The Naypyidaw in Myanmar. Another shameful megaproject that made it to top gear isn't just a remote airport, it's the capital of Myanmar, a new capital that was built from scratch. The building of this new capital was held a secret in 2002 by the Myanmar's former military leadership. In November 2005, Myanmar's leader announced this new capital, but kept its name a secret. It was 4 months later when he finally revealed the name, Naypyidaw, which literally means the king's residence. The reason for this sudden change of capital was not deliberately made to the public. There were many speculations, but most of the population believed that it had a lot to do with the former capital, Yangon, which was home to 7 million people. Yangon had reached its infrastructural limits and had its population set to double by 2050. These reasons made sense for Myanmar to shift the capital to a more central location. The new capital was built immediately, and the successive governments have poured an astounding $4 billion into the city to date. This multi-dollar city seemingly has everything to attract visitors. A 20-lane highway, over 100 luxury hotels divided into 3 hotel districts, golf courses, museums, and even a 99-meter-tall replica of a landmark originally situated in Yangon. However, the government missed one important component: the population. Naypyidaw is home to less than 1 million residents, most of which reside in the suburbs that were present even before the city became the capital. With all the new features the new capital has to offer, why does no one want to live there? Well, most people are reluctant to permanently live in the city due to a lingering gap in health facilities, lack of quality educational institutes, and economic opportunities. So, the city often paints the picture of a deserted place and is often referred to as a ghost town. Hence, the incredible 20-lane highway is practically empty. There is no traffic congestion. At times, a single automobile is seen drifting along the massive road. The city also has an airport that can handle 3.5 million passengers every year, but only a dozen people actually use it. The shopping malls are visited only by the diplomatic staff on weekends, and the hotel lobbies are mostly empty. Yet, despite the apparent merits, there remains a silver lining for the royal capital. Built as a city of the future, and with the prediction of increasing population, Naypyidaw still has time for an inevitable redemption. Who knows? For now, it remains the world's strangest capital and remains useless for much of the country's population. Number 4. Yucca Mountain Nuclear Waste Repository. One more ambitious mega project was planned in view of a sensitive global issue. Well, no one talks about nuclear waste as much as other environmental problems, right? However, nuclear waste danger comes when not stored properly. It can be deadlier than anything ever witnessed since the advent of civilization. To date, nuclear waste is stored above ground, near the power plants where it came from. However, the scientific community agrees that the safest and permanent disposal solution is to store this hazardous waste deep underground. In the 1980s, the US authorities started studies on finding a permanent solution to this growing waste problem. In 1987, the government identified Yucca Mountain in Nevada, since it's the best available option, since it was close to the USA's most used nuclear testing site and was away from any residential area. The plan was to deposit the nuclear waste from all over the country in a tunnel complex about 300 meters under Yucca Mountain. Since Yucca Mountain is made up of volcanic ash, formed millions of years ago, it allows the Yucca Mountain to absorb any radioactive waste without crumbling or cracking. A great location for a repository, but the Nevadans argued about it. First off, the United States has over 100 operational and closed nuclear reactor sites in 34 states, but none of them were in Nevada. The idea of being the only nuclear dumping site of the whole country was greatly opposed by the congressional, representatives, and the general public. Furthermore, the public questioned the official hydrological and geological surveys of the Yucca Mountain. Oppositions believed that the site was unsuitable for a repository, as it runs the risk of contaminating a nearby water source. The water source flows into Amargosa Valley and is used by Native Americans who have lived there in the area for centuries. Despite the upheaval and opposition, the project won approval in 2002, and the Department of Energy resumed the construction of the tunnel. This made Nevada's opposition grow even stronger. They contended the routine exposures during transportation will stigmatize Nevada's residents and will affect tourism in the state. They argued that Nevada was getting the repository only because of its lower population and a smaller representation in Congress. By the time Barack Obama took office, the whole project had become highly politicized. So by 2010, the Obama administration deemed the project unworkable and stopped funding it. 3 years later, a federal court ordered its resumption yet again, but there has been little progress since. It was until the Biden administration has clearly stated that the Yucca Mountain isn't a part of the country's plans anymore, that Nevada seems to have won the battle after 4 long decades. Decades of planning, legal troubles, and over $17 billion fund have gone into the Yucca Mountain project. But it has never been used and remains a useless mega project. Number 5. Forest City in Malaysia. From a parent ghost city, this mega project is a green futuristic smart city that would rise from reclaimed land on 4 artificial islands and will be built around an artificial forest ecosystem. Forest City is located near the independent city-state of Singapore, making it appealing for investors who aim to profit from it. Singapore has the world's second busiest port and a thriving economy. Hence, it is a smart idea for the developers to link the Forest City with Singapore through the Second Link Bridge, shortening the distance between the cities to just 20 minutes. Forest City also offers its own customs facility, enabling residents to move freely to Singapore and back. The design is also advertised to incorporate many green innovations. Forest City features buildings with green rooftops and vertical gardens, a jungle in a city. City streets are designed to have multiple layered infrastructures, with the lower layer for traffic and parking spaces, while the upper layer for parks, sports facilities, and transport hubs. The visionary city will be powered exclusively with renewable energy and will be completed by 2035 at a cost of $100 billion. One of the 4 proposed islands is close to completion, with 50 apartment buildings, golf courses, swimming pools, and beaches on board. However, this highly ambitious project comes with an anticipated cost. A multitude of economic and political hurdles are already hindering its progress. Since the project is being funded mainly through China, Chinese residents virtually had a free pass to the city in the first few years of its construction. Consequently, wealthy Chinese investors rushed to Forest City in order to cut their residential expenses in China. By 2019, 80% of the property owners were Chinese. Seemingly invaded by the Chinese, the street signs were in Mandarin, and the few schools that opened in the area were offering Mandarin courses. Sadly, the native Malaysians simply cannot afford to buy these apartments, as the property prices are set with only the Chinese markets in mind. This seemingly invasion of Chinese investors in the area caused a public outcry, calling the project a new form of colonialism. So the Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad banned foreigners from owning property in the Forest City. In turn, many foreigners started leaving the city and new investors were discouraged. Because of the consequences and the major setback brought by the pandemic and the worldwide travel bans, many existing investors opted out the project due to uncertainty. By the start of 2020, less than 500 people were actually living in the residential developments, of which this Forest City is designed for 700,000 people. The project has remained unprofitable since salespeople claim that fewer than 10 homes were sold at Forest City since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. Moreover, Country Garden laid off more than 1,000 of its Malaysian workers, depicting the epic downturn in the project's fortunes. Forest City was probably too ambitious to begin with, too futuristic to achieve, and too politically challenged to succeed relatively soon. Despite the billions invested and the futuristic features it offers, Forest City is currently a useless mega project. Having gone through tedious planning and strategic development, the government and proponents of these mega projects obviously invested too much funds and effort in order to come up with these ambitious ventures. Whether they characterize the positive features of what mega projects should look like, one question remains at hand. Aren't these too ambitious to start with? What are your thoughts? Do you think they will remain useless in the future? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.